I have an odd relationship with Batman. I don't know if he's my favorite character, but he's definitely the comic book character that I have experienced the most of. And I think I'm afraid to say he's my favorite because, I don't want to be basic or anything. But, I don't know, basically what I'm trying to say is I am literally Batman. Let me just say right off the bat that I loved this movie. And I will be spending this video explaining why, and then later discussing sequel ideas, and also, as always, talking out of my ass. How I felt about Gotham. The first thing I want to talk about is Gotham, since like most contemporary Batman stories, the Batman is about the city of Gotham. Gotham is such a beautifully disgusting city in this film, in a way that for me resonated most with my affinity for the Batman Arkham series, which will be coming up a lot. In those games, you can always sneak off to like a little corner to find disgusting secrets through winding back alleys in between buildings that look like mausoleums under the glow of garish neon lights. The game that feels the most like this Gotham is undoubtedly for me Arkham Knight. This game came out in 2015 but has graphics better than most games coming out now, and it uses its incredible look to craft an amount of discussion that would make a college guy's apartment look spotless. I also really loved the way that Gotham's youth was painted in this movie. Pretty much every young man, except for the mayor's son that we saw, was in some sort of gang. Like, there were the drop heads, those skeleton guys, the group that was vandalizing the bank at the beginning of the movie, and the Riddler gang, but I'll talk about the Riddler gang more later. But it really showed how this city is just falling apart, and it might not have a future. Gotham in this was wonderfully portrayed as a city constantly at war with itself through different factions, ranging from down-to-earth organized gabagool gobblers to weirdo freaks like the Mad Hatter gang. Gotham feels like a city on fire, and Batman has one bucket of water. Batman and Bruce Wayne. First off, I'm not going to say something like, oh, Pattinson surprised everyone, because if you ever thought that he wouldn't be great, your opinion didn't matter in the first place. Pattinson has been giving knockout performance after knockout performance for years. My favorite of his being The Lighthouse, which really showed how well this bitch can brood. Also, Twilight goes crazy, I don't care what you think. Now I know that this Bruce Wayne was not everyone's cup of tea, but I really liked it. But it was pretty different from the on-screen Bruce Waynes that we have seen in the past, and also pretty different from the comic books that the Batman is based on. In the Dark Knight trilogy and the Zack Snyder films, the Bruce Wayne we saw was somewhat brooding and private, say with Alfred, but not too emo, and the public Bruce Wayne we saw was a friendly billionaire playboy. A similar thing can be said for the public Bruce Wayne in Batman's Year One and The Long Halloween, who hooks up with foreign supermodels and rubs elbows with mobsters. The Bruce Wayne of The Batman is not like any of these, but for good reason. He's a strange recluse who seems to have forgotten how to socialize entirely, but it's because he's wildly depressed and has neglected any part of his personality outside of being Batman. And personally, for me, I do prefer an interpretation closer to the Nolan films, but since it served a purpose in this story and it was so well acted, I do not mind at all. Now, on the topic of his Batman,
this is exactly what I've been waiting for. This is exactly, I don't mean to sound like Cat Williams, but this is exactly what I've been waiting for.
Guys, we finally have a Batman who isn't a murderer. And if you think that that's a bad thing, if you think it's unrealistic, what you don't understand is that Batman is just built different. You're built average. You're built to code. Batman breaks the fucking code. This is Batman. This is you. Also, the suit is just beautiful. And I actually did not like it the first time I saw it. But it is a great mix of realistic with stuff like the combat boots, armor with the middle chest plate, gadgetry with the grapple hook, and the raised collar and thick leather cowl is like a modern day Gotham by Gaslight. This Batman fucking gets it. Not only does he kick ass better than any Batman before without using lethal force, mind you, he just gets it. He gets it. And by the end of the film, he becomes the demon that he was to the criminals of Gotham at the beginning, but to the citizens of Gotham, he is finally their protector. He's the man that's going to lead them out of danger. He is not their danger. And when he holds on to you, you don't want him to let go because you're safe. The Riddler. Now, if there was one thing that I was pretty concerned about with this film, it was the Riddler. When I heard that they were doing a more realistic take on this Green Riddle Man, I got flashbacks to the watered down take on Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, and I am so happy that I was dead wrong. First off, I'm so glad that they actually call him the Riddler instead of something like the Green Killer, and the riddles were actually very clever. I think my favorite was URL Rata Alata, and Paul Dano just crushes it as the Riddler, aka Edward Nashton.
Oh shit, I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Edward Nashton? Come again? That is Edward Nygma. That is fucking Nygma. But yeah, I liked the Riddler a lot. I especially liked how he was revealed to be an orphan who had to actually suffer through the system, unlike Bruce Wayne. I thought that his plan to flood Gotham and assemble a group of like-minded outcasts to shoot up Gotham Square Garden was a really good way to have a big third act punch-up, which felt like a natural progression of the plot and the themes. The side characters. Batman's supporting cast makes up some of my favorite characters in fiction, but I am very, very peculiar about how I like them to be portrayed. But I am here to proudly announce what everyone has been worried about since this movie debuted. Shane Fredrickson is happy about it. I know. We did it, folks. We did it. Shane's a happy boy. Let's start with Catwoman. And I would just like to apologize to Batman for all the times I made jokes about how he just lets Catwoman get away with whatever she wants. I get it now. But in all seriousness, I really enjoyed this portrayal of Selina Kyle. I was kind of worried that she would fall into the, strong, sexy female character trope where everything she says is, weird and sexual. But they really did not do that much at all, so her and Batman's chemistry was also really interestingly executed, and I appreciate how awkward Batman felt in the scenes flirting with Catwoman. It really sold how isolated he is. Also, the choreography of the character was incredible. She was able to hold her own against Batman without moving the same way as him. I'm also very scared that my girlfriend is trying to leave me for her. Gym time. Now there's a big elephant in the room with Jim Gordon. A lot of people don't want me to talk about this. People are mad that I'm going to talk about this. I fear that I may be canceled. I fear that mail bombs will be sent through the mail. But it's important to talk about these things. It's important to stand up to fascism. That's right, outright fascism. Jim doesn't smoke in this movie. I just think it's weird. I loved this interpretation of Gordon. I think that this is my favorite dynamic between Gordon and Batman ever, where Gordon sorta considers Batman his friend, and he trusts him, but he knows that this dude has a few screws loose. One detail that I love about this version of Gordon and Batman's relationship is that not only is Gordon willing to hit Batman to call him out on shit, but Batman is willing to let Jim Gordon hit him when he deserves it. And after seeing Batman turn bones into a fine dust for an hour and a half, and some of those bones belonging to cops, it really wordlessly shows how much this Batman and this Jim Gordon trust each other. Now to talk about the untrustworthy, unsympathetic, sometimes backstabbing, sometimes antagonist, sometimes helpful side character duo of the Penguin and Carmine Falcone. And I did not think that they were going to be calling this version of the Penguin, but I could not be happier that they did, because I was going to be so pissed if they just called him Cobblepot the whole time. It's baffling how Colin Farrell can perform so well under pounds of makeup. It's also baffling why they took an Irish actor and had him play a traditionally British character, American. The IRA supporter in me does not know how to feel. Penguin gave what was probably the funniest performance in the movie, but Carmine Falcone gave one of the most genuine. Penguin feels like he wants to be a scary mobster, but Falcone feels like he is a scary mobster wearing the skin of your friend. Falcone feels like a conductor, taking dissonant sounds of chaos and pointing them in just the right direction, to either solve a problem or to not become a problem. When Bruce Wayne comes to him to confront him, he gets Bruce to go away and stay out of his business by spinning him a yarn which would have all of Bruce's anger pointed at a person who is already behind bars. It's like he's playing pool, because you know in pool you can't just shoot the balls directly into the pockets. You have to shoot the cue ball to guide the balls into the pocket. One thing that was a little odd was their decision to make John Turturro be Carmine Falcone instead of Salvatore Maroni. Falcone is usually a big, brawny Marlon Brando type mobster, but Maroni is a slight, kindlier looking man, which is more so the impression I get from Turturro's Falcone. It's not a flaw or anything, it's just kinda odd. Comic book connections. So this is the first Batman film that's come out since I've gotten really into comic books and not just comic book movies. So therefore the whole time my nerd synapses were just firing like crazy and making connections that may not have even been there. The first one of these connections I made was that Catwoman being the daughter of Falcone really reminded me of the character of Huntress, not like the future child of Selina Kyle and Bruce Wayne, but the second Huntress, Helena Bertinelli, the daughter of the head of the Bertinelli crime family, who goes on a path of vengeance to destroy her father's killers. Now the connection that everyone and their nerdy little brother has made already is that the glowing green steroid that Bruce puts directly into his veins towards the climax of the movie could pretty clearly be a proto-Venom, and I think it would be really awesome if this universe's version of Bane got Venom from Batman and just took it and amped up to 11. The next connection I made was done while I was fantasizing about the different villains I'd love to see in a sequel, which I'll discuss more later, but I thought, hey, maybe Anarchy in the gang would be a cool inclusion. However, the Riddler in this universe is pretty much just Anarchy. Now, if you don't know already, Anarchy is a psychotic little whippersnapper who gets a bunch of like-minded folk to go out and sow chaos and destruction against political figures to move the system more towards guess-what ideology. I still love the Riddler in this film, and honestly this connection makes me kinda love him more, cause now we kinda have the film adaptation of Anarchy I've wanted to see since Arkham Origins. Territory for a sequel. Now, I'm going to surprise none of you real quick and let you know that The Batman has already made a lot of money. And of course, with money comes the pursuit of more money. And a lot has been made of what to do with the inevitable sequel to The Batman, so I'm going to get into my ideas for that. Some would like to see something like Year Zero, where the Riddler floods Gotham by destroying the seawall, and Batman has to shoot a bow and ride on a motorcycle and not have sleeves. Or maybe an adaptation of No Man's Land, where an earthquake leaves Gotham in disarray and it's divided up among the criminal element. Earthquakes are the floods of the land, after all. Or, maybe the Court of Owls. Guys, no one is talking about the Court of Owls.
The Court of Owls.
The Court of Owls. Court of Owls.
The Court of Owls.
Now, I would love to see any of those ideas, but I would like to offer a couple of new ideas. The first of which being an adaptation of the aforementioned Arkham Origins. So the plot of Arkham Origins is that Black Mask puts a $50 million bounty on Batman for one night. This brings many assassins and crooks out of the woodwork to try and collect. But I will be altering this story a bit. First off, it is going to be the Penguin, not Black Mask. I love the Black Mask, I'd love to see him in this universe, but he was already in the Birds of Prey, and I would really like to see them build on the character that they already have rather than introduce a new one who would serve the same purpose. Secondly, there isn't going to be the twist where Black Mask is actually the Joker. I like the Joker fine, but honestly, we are way oversaturated and suffering from Joker inflation. Do not look that up. I also have two characters that I would omit from the lineup of assassins that we got in Origins. The first we are going to omit is Bane. I'd like to save Bane for a proper introduction where he can be the main villain, not just one of a group of assassins. The second is Firefly, and don't get me wrong, I love my boy Garfield, but we are getting Firefly and Batgirl. So we've got Killer Croc, Electrocutioner, Copperhead, Lady Shiva, Deadshot, and Deathstroke. So we have 2 Beast People, Electrocutioner, and 3 ultra competent assassins. I think that we can add a little more flavor to this group. First, I'd like to introduce you to Ulysses Hadrian Armstrong, aka the General. A child military genius with all the creep factor of that guy in your history class who is a little too interested in German history, but with 100 times more danger. This little shit is known for being a master manipulator, especially of the mentally compromised, so I think he would be best used as Copperhead's tamer, probably outlasting her and going off on his own after. And yes, I want to stick with the gender-bent version, because this is dangerously close to being a sausage party with a little bit of Shiva on the side. Having the General in this group adds a real fucked up flavor of Batman having to beat the shit out of an actual child. And since we've seen that this Batman's actually like a good dude, this could present a real hurdle for him to get over. The second edition will be a pretty big departure from this list of straight up villains. Detective Flass. Flass is most well known for his role in Batman Year One, where he's a crooked cop who exists to show just how damn good of a cop Jim Gordon is. Now, being a crooked cop, he is obviously greedy, he's corrupt, but he's also a Green Beret with a dangerous mean streak. The Gotham PD plays its own role in Arkham Origins, but that's a 12-hour game and this movie probably will not be that long. So I thought it best to pour the violent greed of the GCPD into one thing. Like a flask. Don't get me wrong though, I don't expect for Flask to be a real threat for Batman in this imaginary script. He can just be one of the easy wins in this 8-man lineup. The second sequel idea is just authentically Shane, which is to say, probably worse. You take an intellectual Batman villain, someone who loves to execute grand plans with little pawns, say Ra's al Ghul or maybe Hugo Strange, and you have them take the forgotten and downtrodden of Gotham and promise them power, only to turn them into freakish monsters. Now, if you're someone who hates when any comic book lore is changed for a movie, then you are going to hate this idea. See, Batman has a lot of villains who are just, what if man, but animal, and I want to pour all those villains into a big meaty soup and pour it on Pattinson's perfect head. I'm thinking Killer Croc, because I really like Killer Croc. Man-Bat, a version of Copperhead who's more snake than man, and maybe a really horrifying interpretation of Killer Moth. I think that using the forgotten and downtrodden of Gotham would be a really good evolution on the Batman's themes, and also you'd get to see Pattinson get the shit beaten out of him by a bunch of freaks. So that was pretty much all my thoughts on the Batman. This was my longest video, so if you're still here, get a hobby. So close to me for this video. I feel like we're getting closer every week, you know? Well, hey, everyone, thank you so much for watching that video. You know, this is how we do it here every week. It's not on every Sunday, so I gotta stop saying every Sunday. It's Sunday or Monday. You know, I try and put them out on Sunday, but like last weekend I was sick. Like, I know I said that, but I was very sick and I had lost my voice for a long portion of like the end of the week and the weekend, so I like straight up couldn't record. Like pretty much all of that recording in the video was done on Sunday night. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, you know, and there will be a video here next week. It could be Sunday, could be Monday, maybe it'll be Friday. It'll be Sunday or Monday though. Yeah, sequel to The Last Universe on the Left is coming along. It is chug chug a chuggin', as we like to say here. And that is my book, The Last Universe on the Left. If you are new here, you can get on Amazon, 11 horror short stories. But man, the sequel, I am writing some of my favorite stuff that I have ever written in my life right now. And I am so excited for all of you to read it. As long as, when it's out, you give me money. That's how purchases work. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you later.